If this was a normal night, I would be with this man. It's never normal that I would be with David Shaw right in front of the fountains of Bellagio in Las Vegas, Nevada. But if this was the draft night that we all thought it would be, I'd be getting set to be on the air with this man on NFL Network, as he has been for, I think, 8 years and counting. He is the head coach of Stanford football, David Shaw. How are you, David?
I'm doing great, but I would be doing better if it was me and you in front of the Bellagio.
I know that.
I really would be.
I know that.
Or inside the Bellagio.
Well, you know what? I think you could be, but me as an NFL employee, David, I would have to apparently keep walking all the way to the elevator banks and hit a button, unfortunately, to go straight up.
No question.
Oh, man. But and I think we will be there one day. I think, obviously, the NFL will put Vegas into the draft rotation as soon as possible when we're back living lives as normal as we possibly can. But as for tonight's draft, the question you just heard is our poll question today for a reason, because I think that is the crux of tonight's draft, where Tua goes. Would you agree with that assessment, David Shaw?
Yeah, I mean every team has to find out where their risk, what risk they want to take, and it's really tough to say if you believe there's any chance that he is not healthy enough to truly compete year one, that you draft him that high. But if you say, you know what, long-term wise, we think he's going to be the guy, this is our guy, we've fallen in love with him in our meetings, we've fallen in love with his film. If he's not 100% year one, but ready to go year two and be the franchise guy that we want, then you don't hesitate. But those are the questions that have to be answered. And I'm not in those rooms, so I can't say 100%. But if I was, I would have to feel very, very good, especially as a general manager, that this guy is not only going to be the guy, but that he's going to actually be the guy sometime in the next year or so, and he's not going to be on the shelf, because I know my job is on the line by making this pick.
So let's hypothetical this thing out best we can, because what you know and what I know apparently is what the teams know. All right, because they clearly don't have the ability to get their own doctor to go take a look at Tua. They have the medicals of the recheck, apparently, that went very well for him after the combine check that took place on him, no doubt. So if you get those things in, and the eye in the sky that you have seen for this young man, and then you have had the ability to obviously face-to-face it with him, and you do see the video that Trent Dilfer and of him being put through the paces by Trent Dilfer and Ken Wisenhunt and spoke to those guys, would you be comfortable that way in making that decision for Tua atop this draft, 3rd or 5th overall?
If I got that information and what I've seen on film, I would not hesitate. This guy throws the ball in tight windows. He's got quick feet, but he's not fast to escape the pocket. He's got great savvy. He's one heck of a football player, and I think he's going to play really well on the next level. There will be teams that are looking at it just saying, you know what, gosh, if I can take a guy like Justin Herbert that has no physical ills at all, but still a top-line passer, you know, I would just feel more comfortable with that. So that's why those teams have to make those calls. But if I got that information on Tua, I'd turn the card in and high-five everybody in the room. Or elbow bump via Zoom everybody in the room.
Exactly right. So let's put a pin in Herbert for a second, because clearly you've got a lot of history of seeing him with your own two eyes and having to watch your defense and the rest of the room game plan for him. Let's now hypothetical this in the evaluation of Tua and Burrow. If you believe Burrow is that much better than Tua, would you, if you are Miami, give the so-called Godfather offer to Cincinnati, which would be, I imagine, every single one of your first-round selections, all 3 of them, to go move up and go get them? Would you do that?
Just from my 9 years in the NFL and doing this with you all for so long,
yep.
That's never worth it. You end up with a great player and nobody to put around him for the next few years. And I think it's usually bad for your team, and it's bad for that player. So I personally never feel good about those big-time blockbuster trades.
No kidding. Put a little bit more meat on the bones. I think it's obvious in the fact that you say you can't surround him with others of first-round talent, but walk me through unpack that one a little bit more for me, David.
I'm sorry, say it again?
Unpack that answer a little bit more. Put a little bit more meat on the bones about why you think that wouldn't be worth it. I mean, if the kid is that good, if he could be the next you-know-what, eventually you can surround him, right?
Yeah, you know, I just picture Ricky Williams sitting at that table after the New Orleans draft where they traded everything for him and how difficult those next few years were. I think about the Herschel Walker trade, trading away so much. You're helping the team that you're trading with really build. And what I watched the Patriots do, what I watched the Colts do for all those years, just constantly putting pieces around what I watched Pete Carroll and Snyder do with Seattle with a bunch of third, fourth, and fifth round picks. To me, it's the accumulation of picks that truly help build a championship team, and I would hate to give away a bunch of picks for one player.
Stanford Cardinal head football coach David Shaw. You mentioned 9 years in the NFL, Ravens and Raiders, correct? That's who you spent those times with?
Yes, 1 year in Philly.
Don't forget the cup of coffee in Philadelphia, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, Justin Herbert, what's your evaluation of him and his readiness or success level in the NFL?
Every single box is checked. Size, athletic ability, arm strength. He is streaky, accuracy-wise. The guy can make some special plays. And I know I've heard from other people and watching their film that you wonder, you don't see the Joe Burrow take the game over, Tua take the game over. You don't see him do that as much as those other teams, those other guys who did those other teams. But I think in the right situation, this guy can either come in early or come in and sit and watch. But I think the ceiling is very, very high.
Give me a right situation for him. What do you think?
Well, the great situation for a young quarterback, for me, starts with a great defense and a running game so that not all the pressure's on his shoulders, so that he can kind of get his feet wet and hopefully at some point be the guy and take it over. You hate to have a rookie go out there, and you heard, I saw Peyton Manning's quotes about his rookie year that were great for him, but it was a lot of difficult, hard, tough lessons. Because it was on his shoulders from day one. Throwing the ball between 30 and 45 times a game is really, really tough for a young guy when you've got defensive specialists out there that are going to give him things that he's never seen before. So you'd love to have the pieces around him to ease his way in and play, but still be protected up front, protected by a running game, be protected by his defense.
How would you evaluate Sam Darnold right now, David? Year 3 now, going in. His team's drafted.
Yeah, this is where you hope you see the training wheels come off. You hope to see him get comfortable and play at a high level. I know they've had some turnover there at the receiver position. I think that he's played well in spurts, and it's hard to truly judge. Is it, not enough? The team's not good enough around him, et cetera. But I think for him, he's shown those flashes of what we saw at USC. But this is where it's got to start to turn for him and for the franchise, for him to truly be that franchise quarterback and take this team to the playoffs.
Now, I know you were high on him at that draft in Dallas that year, and you were one of the members of the panel scratching your head a little bit at Mayfield. You liked Mayfield a lot, but first overall of somebody that, wasn't much taller than 6 feet, do you think you could make an assessment on Mayfield right now?
My assessment of Mayfield has remained the same as him coming out of college, which is when you watch the great plays, you say, wow, he's a combination of Drew Brees and Russell Wilson. And when you watch the bad plays, you say, oh, my gosh, does this kid understand he can't throw the ball into triple coverage? But there's a lot on his plate. He's trying so hard, and you never fault him for his effort, his toughness, his competitiveness. At times he needs a little bit more discretion, but that's what young quarterbacks you kind of need to play their way into. We can talk also about the interviews and some of the things he says that you kind of cringe and say, oh gosh, we want you to be the franchise and watch your words a little bit better. Because everybody's looking at you. The entire organization is leaning on you. And that's what we talk about being a franchise quarterback. It's not just about the quarterback on the field. It's about being the biggest spokesman for your team. And I think he's got some room to grow there. I do think he's improved. But he's got a lot of room to grow as far as turning the ball over and truly being that franchise quarterback.
And last one on the quarterback situation, throw Trevor Lawrence in this mix. Where does he stand for you prospect-wise amongst all this quarterback class 2020? If he was in it, you'd say what?
Oh, gosh, if he was in it, there would be some discussion. But I think the fact that he would have maybe a little bit stronger arm than Joe, about a few inches taller, just as good of an athlete, if not a little bit better athlete. I think he'd go number one. I think the guy's got that it factor, just like Joe does, just like Tua does. But this guy is big. He's tall. He's long. He's fast. He's explosive. He's a great competitor. Watching him get knocked out of the game and then come back and still put his shoulder down and try to run people over and make some big-time throws, this guy's answered all the questions.
David Shaw of Stanford, couple minutes left with him here on the Rich Eisen Show. I know you love talking receivers whenever you're on the draft set with us. Our buddy Mike Mayock, 12th overall for the Raiders, sure looks like he can make his first draft choice as the Las Vegas Raiders GM his pick of any wide receiver on the board. If you had that choice, you would choose who, David?
Boy, that would be tough. We'd have to battle this in the room. I love Jerry Jeudy because I love guys that can run routes and run every single route in the book. The name of the game is separation, and he can get separation right now, day one, as a rookie receiver. That would be tough to pass up. But then I'd look at his teammate Ruggs also and say that this guy is like Hill from Kansas City. You have to count for him because he can score from any place on every single play. That, to me, would be the discussion between those two guys because they are both game changers.
Yeah, I know. Daniel Jeremiah says it goes CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson. How about that? The exact opposite of what you said. That's what he thinks it does. He thinks
and I see that because I think he got actually probably got 6 guys in this first round that could be special. But I love the quickness of Jeudy. CeeDee Lamb is special after the catch. He ran a 4.50 at the combine, but he seems to run past everybody. And he's a big guy. He's strong. He's physical. I love Justin Jefferson. His ability to get open versus one-on-one, and if he's not open, he just takes the ball away from you anyway. Those two guys are special as well.
So who's the other? So you like Ayuk? Who are the other two receivers that you give a first-round grade to?
I love Ayuk.
From Arizona State. You've seen him, obviously.
A guy that just gets the ball much like Ruggs, and as soon as he touches the ball, he's making decisions in his head at a high rate of speed to just score. That's all he's trying to do. He's trying to break tackles, make people miss. He turns short passes into long gains. And as a receiver coach, as a coordinator, as a head coach, those are guys that you're looking for to where the quarterback can get the ball out of his hands and we can still get a big play very quickly.
All right, ask the poll question of David Shaw before we send him on into his good draft day. Go for it, Christopher.
All right, Coach, who takes Tua tonight, the Dolphins, the Chargers, or he falls?
I keep looking at it, and I just can't see Miami passing them. I keep saying Miami.
I do, too. I do, too. I mean, they did all this work. And by work, I mean sending away Tunsil, sending away Minkah Fitzpatrick, sending away Kenyon Drake. I mean, name the people that they have just let go, essentially, to prepare for this moment. And Ryan Fitzpatrick almost botched it because he refuses to tank. That man will never tank, and so
God bless him for that too.
Right,
but
I know.
You also look at them. It's a newer head coach. They have long vision, and this you look at him, and this is a franchise guy. If he's healthy, and they have the proof that he believe he's going to be healthy. You have the long vision, and you throw in the pick, and you know that in the next couple of years you may have a special player.
So Tua doesn't have that hip injury, and it's just him straight up with Burrow. Even though we saw them play against each other straight up in Burrow's remarkable season, what's your evaluation? What do you do?
Yeah, I'd have a tough time passing up Tua. I really would. I love Joe's accuracy. I love his playmaking ability. I love his toughness. I think Tua, there's a little bit extra there athletically, in my opinion, but not to run, but to make those ridiculous throws on the run that he can make. They both were surrounded by outstanding talent, but both guys made plays, and I would probably choose Tua.
By the way, I lied. I got one more for you. When you're in the draft room with Ozzie Newsome, what's the proudest pounding of the table you had that Ozzie said, okay, I'll take that guy? Which one?
I don't know how you're going to take this. There was no pounding on the table with Ozzie.
Okay.
Ozzie was the master. Right. His draft process was phenomenal. He weeded out all the things beforehand, and he would put all the guys in one long line, and he could manipulate the draft like nobody I've ever seen. He took in a lot of people's input, but he would remind us all the time that draft day was his game day, which means, when it's our game day, he gets to watch. On his game day, we get to watch.
Is that right? Is that what he would say to you?
Funny.
Oh, draft day was Ozzie's game day.
That's great.
There's no question about it. And everybody had a little bit of influence, but he was going to make the call. And he's a Hall of Famer as a player, and he's a Hall of Famer as a GM.
And the mother of all going away presents, Lamar Jackson, his last first-round draft choice. That's it.
Yeah, he's doing all right.
Yeah. You take care of yourself, David. I'll miss you tonight, but let's stay in touch, okay?
Absolutely. Thanks, Rich.
You're the man. That's David Shaw, Stanford Cardinal head football coach. Love having him on the draft set. Love it, love it, love it. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.